The UK Medical Freedom Alliance is the UK's most recognised and respected organisation campaigning for your right to informed consent, bodily autonomy and medical choice, and supporting doctors to uphold these rights. We are the UK's voice of ethical medicine. Please visit our website at ukmedfreedom.org, where you will find full details of our open letters, our podcasts, campaigns, information and template letters. Please sign up to receive our newsletter and be notified of our new campaigns, open letters and calls to action and any other important updates. Watch out for us in the media as we make our presence felt in the mainstream media and other places, especially alternative media, and also on our own podcast. So while speaking of social media, remember you can find us on Facebook and Telegram, X, formerly Twitter. From an audio perspective, you'll find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favourite podcasting platform. And finally, on video, loud and proud on YouTube. But in particular, please go to our Rumble channel, which is the platform for free speech. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you go. And finally, on our website, you will be able to donate to us via donor box or buy me a coffee. Anything you can will help us greatly continue with this platform and our services. And with that, thank you very much. And now on with the podcast. Hi, welcome along to today's podcast. It is the 1st of 2024, and I'm very, very pleased and honoured to have along with us today a really special guest. Her name is Janet Wrathall. She's an ND, and you will hear what that's all about shortly. She's from the Clinic of Natural Medicine, and she is a member of the UK Medical Freedom Alliance, actually, but also a member of the People's Health Alliance too. She's a registered naturopath, hence the ND, herbalist, causative homeopath, holistic iridologist, nutrition and dietary advisor, homotoxicologist, and a certified NES BioEnergetic consultant. She is the real deal. She's got every qualification you could possibly think of, and in fact there are so many letters after her name I chose not to put them on screen because actually it would take up all of my screen real estate. You will find her at the Clinic of Natural Medicine.uk and the Clinic of Natural Medicine.uk as an info at email address, easy to remember, okay? So info at Clinic of Natural Medicine.uk. Without further ado, let's meet Janet. And I'd like to welcome you, Janet, to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Ian. It's really lovely to be with you. Thank you very much.
And so I thought we'd start this little chat with you, maybe telling us all about yourself, how you came to be involved in natural medicine in the first place, and from how did it all start with you?
Okay, well, my past life was as a secondary school teacher, actually, and I did that for 10 years. And at the end of that, as perhaps anybody listening who's in the teaching workforce at the minute or has been, like a lot of professions these days, it was quite intense. We had an Ofsted inspection. This was at the end of 8 years, and it obviously very stressful. And my head of department at the time, she went off with a breakdown. So that left me taking over the department. It was only 2.3 members of staff, so it wasn't a huge department. So I took over that, and then I was sort of going down that slippery slope, sort of breakdown stage myself. Within 2 years, it was quite interesting. And so at the end of 10 years, I decided to escape. I was on the escape committee for a year anyway. And I did love teaching, but it was, very intense work. And so I was getting sort of ME symptoms by that stage, a bit of exhaustion, chronic fatigue. I just got married the previous year and I was having fertility issues. So I thought, right, it's not going to go too well if I carry on teaching. So I gave up teaching and I set up a couple of businesses, obviously for income. And so I was doing some tutoring. I'd set up a First Choice Tutoring was my little business for kiddies from age 5 up to 18. And then I also did talks, health talks. My original degree was food science and nutrition, biochemistry. So I went around doing talks, and then I started a third company. Sort of because my background was nutrition, I started seeing people with a client basis from that nutritional front. And so I did that from home, really, in my front bedroom, converted front bedroom. So it was very small, and but it worked at the time. And then I moved out into a larger place in my local village, come town, and it sort of went from there. But I knew I had to get more qualifications on top of that, and so I did the 5 years training with the College of Naturopathic Medicine in Manchester, which was about an hour from where I lived at the time. So that I was trying to run my 3 businesses, and it was an interesting time because sadly I got divorced during that time. I got breast cancer, and I sort of wanted to know how I could, what it was physiologically, why I had developed breast cancer in the first place. And of course, there was quite a bit of stress going on during that time.
Yeah, and of course, as I understand from people that I know that have gone through that cancer journey, they very often have experienced either some kind of trauma to mentally, physically, or otherwise, and it's brought that cancer on.
Yeah.
And this seems to be something that is now widely known and being investigated.
Absolutely, and I was, at the time, I was thinking it's got to be the stress. I don't like saying my ex-husband, I have forgiven all that, but he was on the narcissistic spectrum along with his father, my father-in-law. And, we're all here to learn, aren't we? And I got out, understood years later that was presenting to me as, like we all look at each other as mirrors, don't we? And so it was sort of saying, what did I need to do? And I needed to stand up for myself a bit more. And that's exactly what that situation did. But the real intensity of that pressure over time. My father died at the same time as the cancer, and the divorce. So it was quite, let's say, an interesting time. We all go through these things. And then, a few more things happened, but it was basically just it was just building up, and something had to go, didn't it? So intracellular, it was going, we can't do any more, we're going to tell you.
The proverbial pressure cooker.
Yeah.
So do you think that cancer experience was what drove you to carry on with this goal to be running your own sort of natural medicine practice?
Yes, and I'm grateful now. I sort of say, thank you to the cancer. A lot of people do, I think, don't they? When you either go down and give your health to someone else to deal with, which not a great idea, is it? Or we then say, right, well, what went wrong there? Let's try and work it out. And then obviously, as you get into practice, this was it was 2000 when I got my cancer. So a little while ago. And then hopefully you can, and humbly, you can think, right, well, if I've done it for myself, I'm no different to anybody. I've just applied a little bit. Can I help somebody else through this? So I have seen, quite a few cancers over time, and obviously not every case does make it, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what was your experience of the NHS and the kind of support that you got around that time? Was it what you expected? Was it not as good as you expected? And how did it compare with other cancer journeys for people that you've met and what they experienced?
I'm going to use the word interesting again. It was quite interesting at the time. At that space, it was 2000. I was just, when it happened, when I got the download of the cancer, let's say, I don't like saying anything else, but it was quite a shock. I thought, where's this come from, like I said? And I immediately, before any NHS intervention, I sort of phoned around the world, really. So I phoned lots of natural doctors around the world and got their slant on it. And then obviously I had to go and get some assessment done to see what was going on. And so I'm just thinking what happened actually at the time. I got classed as a grade 2 oestrogen receptive cancer. And it was about a pea-size blob in my left breast. And so I found an amazing doctor called Dr. Patrick Kingsley in, is it Lincolnshire? Sadly, he's not with us anymore, but he was an amazing natural cancer specialist, but he trained in allopathic medicine. So, you know, he understood both sides, and he'd set up really in mainly doing the alternative approach. And I thought, wow, I've got to go with this. So I whizzed up and down to his clinic. I was taken down because I had chronic fatigue alongside a few other interesting things. Probably Lyme disease at that stage as well had got on board. And so over a period of 6 months, I had lots of intravenous vitamin C injections and ozone therapy, and I did carrot juice, you know, the usual things that you just really go for at the time. So he was incredible, absolutely marvellous man. But I then went back for a checkup, and there were still things managing to present, and because I was still going through a divorce, and he was saying, you know, you need to obviously get that done and dusted, get your divorce through, and then because it is stress-based. So I went into hospital. I did have a lumpectomy done. I may not have done obviously that now, but at the time, with what I knew, I had that done. I refused radiotherapy, and because things weren't improving as to the extent that Dr. Patrick wanted, unfortunately, I did eventually agree to radiotherapy. But I refused to have any of the Zoladex, any of the drugs after that. And so they were quite upset when in hospital. I can see myself now, I was being examined, and there's a lovely, you know, they're all obviously lovely. And this female doctor came in, and I said, look, I know my telomerase levels are high, which is suggestive that even after the radiotherapy, things were still not improving. But I said, I just think there's another way. But she said, well, we'll give you 5 years then. So I gulped. I still thought there was another way. So I said, well, thank you very much, you know, and left and never went back. I'm still here. And that got me intrigued, you know, thinking I've obviously got to get the stress out of my life. I've got to change it. I've got to sort out and go into some career that I really love doing and I am passionate about. And that's why I started training to be a naturopath or a naturopathy doctor, whatever you want to call them these days. Yeah.
Well, you're clearly a picture of health, so whatever you're doing for yourself is obviously working very, very well. And I'm also guessing, you know, you're a great advert for your
well,
medicine.
Thank you. We're always working on that, aren't we, all of us?
Now, you've obviously got a massive qualifications as well, which I read out earlier, which is absolutely amazing. So you've clearly studied very hard, and you've learnt an awful lot. So it's a very impressive set of credentials, and I guess that must also encourage people to come and see you when you've got that kind of background and proof of your credentials behind you. It's absolutely, I think I would certainly feel better if I saw all those qualifications behind a naturopath.
Yeah, I suppose I just see them as bits of paper, really. We've got to do them in a way, haven't we, so that the public can feel safe, hopefully safe when they come to see us, and at least they think we've done a bit of training, you know, to back us up. But I mean, I just followed my nose, really. And I know we're all the same in practice. all of us just keep gathering, certificates and things, just because we think, right, you think you've sussed out where you are, and then bang, something else comes in. You think, oh, right, I don't know anything. And, and we're adding to this constantly. But I think altogether it was about, if I block everything off, it's about 15 years full-time, post 16. So it's not lots, but it's just bit, as we go along, again, like we say, we keep adding things in. And I've been very lucky into, it was only for a short period, but I trained a little bit with a guy called Dr. Tchaikovsky. He's based in New York. So we were over there with a team training with this causative homeopathy. And Dublin, so we was in across to Dublin, but it was a great team that we worked with, training with, open-minded folks that from energy medicine, excuse me, homeopathy, naturopathic doctors, medical doctors, dentists, excuse me, and so it's really great to share. When we're all saying, we're learning together, and I think that's what we're wanting. We've always wanted an integrated approach, because obviously modern medicine has a huge amount still that we need. And if I'm in an accident tomorrow, I'm the first to sing the praises of a surgeon. So
of course, yeah. So people having been through the NHS, they've been through that format, and so that they need to follow that, because that's their first line of defence. That's what they would normally go for, I guess. But what is it that kind of makes them then come on to you? And is it a referral, or is it other information that's come to them? And what drives them to come and see someone in the natural world?
Usually it's because they've been through that format already, and they've sort of come to a full stop. So if, they've had lots of lab work done, quite rightly, because we use a lot of labs as well. They've, had all the blood's done, all the, looking at the detail, but there's still something they're not seeing. And a lot of the cases I get actually we're investigating the pathogens. A lot of them have got Lyme disease, Lyme and co-infections. There are over 100 co-infections now. So it's very complex when you're looking at the microbiology, because, you're trying to hone down to certain ones, and obviously get the soil of the body clean first, and then you can extract the microbes a bit easier that way. But also it might be that they've not picked up, and I think they're starting to, that a chronic pathology may have developed because of them living in circumstances where they've got mould, for example, in the house, or they've got a lot of EMF exposure, which, of course, this day and age is everywhere, isn't it, really? Exactly, with the 5G picture. I'm EMF sensitive myself, although I've got protection devices and all sorts on my body and on the house, and I've come to have to live with it, don't you? But so we really have to look deeply at pathology, which obviously GP colleagues, I really feel for them. They've 10 minutes or 20 minutes at the most to analyse somebody who's got serious pathology. I just, no wonder they're having breakdowns, a lot of them, because it's intense, isn't it? Exactly, yeah. And I can spend, I know they've got to pay because it's private, but, literally 6 hours of time, 2 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours, one-to-one, and the rest me researching their case and looking at the nitty-gritty. And I think that's what they're after. They're saying, well, why didn't anyone tell us this before?
How many patients do you think you could see, maybe on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Is it many that you can get through, or is it quite few?
You'd be surprised. It literally is only 10. I can only manage 10, because 2 to 3 a day at the most. It's literally because I'm doing 10 hours a day, because because I'm a single practitioner at the minute, and I always have been actually, and I did have a clinic, like I say before, just working from home at the minute. Because you're putting so much input in, and then you've got to prepare the prescriptions, either herbal medicine or homeopathic or energy medicine or whatever. And I do the ordering, in charge of a dispensary and so on. Even though I've got a PA that does my books, who's fabulous, there's still a lot of admin to do, and, a lot of prep. And then I ring new patients, potential patients up to chat with before, just to see if, it feels right for them.
And do you offer a free consultation, say for half an hour, something like that? How does that work?
It's sort of, I try and keep it to about 15 minutes, which is tough. And obviously a lot of people that we get are very emotional on the phone because they're at the end of the line, with things. And so you've obviously got to be very human and go with the flow. So, and that's what I try and do in the sessions. I think all of us do in practice, that you've got to try, haven't you, and empathise with that person that you're seeing. And your mind to even get somebody owning up to some sexual abuse, for the first time ever. And that's a huge thing that, the sharing and
I think that's why I like, the UKMFA, because it is such a great mix of various professions that have come together and, support each other. We've got lawyers and doctors and even people like me that have a completely different background. And it also reminds me of the fact that in Russia, they have a mix of various therapies and medical doctors working together with even psychic surgeons, it's absolutely amazing. And, I think if we could get to that stage in this country, it would be a great benefit to the world, really. And, would really help us, I think, it's, help everybody.
I totally agree. And that's what drew me to UK Med Freedom, and I'm hugely respectful of all my colleagues in UKMFA, put it all together. And it's just terrific, and it's so refreshing. And I agree that, frequency medicine, you see that, the Russians they've always been big leaders in frequency medicine. And even the psychic side, I'm very open to that. And it all comes together. But energy medicine, I think in particular, is way, way ahead. And we, hopefully at the new clinic, which we'll discuss shortly, we're going to have some amazing new technology, and that will really pinpoint, critically what's going on at a physiological level for people. And they are using, this. I think South Africa is another good example where they combine, don't they? And China, I think, where they combine both allopathic and alternative.
So it's going to be quite something for you to have this massive clinic and all these people working around you, in contrast to where you've been working up to now on your own and working from home. So it must be, it's going to be quite a major change.
Well, it's only really the last 2 years since lockdown, interesting lockdown. I lost my clinic in my local town then. Excuse me. And so that's when I had to work from home. And it's funny how things work out, though, isn't it? Because I nursed my mother. She's 91. We lost her a year and a half ago. But, at that time, I took my mother in. And so I nursed her, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I couldn't work from home. So everything seems to happen for a reason, doesn't it, usually?
The universe moves in mysterious ways.
It does. But you can only do so much as a single practitioner, and you can only cram so much into the grey software, can't you? And you thought, well, if we have a team, obviously there are wonderful clinics springing up and always have been all over the world. But I got together with a wonderful lady called Lisa Dunnington, who's one of the 5 that set up the PHA, the People's Health Alliance, a couple of years ago now, I think. And at our first meeting, I met, of course, Lisa, because she was leading it. And would you believe we were in a circle of about 32 people. And I sat down next to a guy called Gareth Chalfont. And we didn't know we were sat next to each other, but I'll just give you a bit of a rundown on Gareth. Amazing person. He's got a PhD in environmental architecture. And he was a researcher at my local university, Lancaster University, up here in Lancashire, for 7 years. And he researched into dementia and how we could maybe prevent dementia from happening, linking in with his environmental architecture degree, because he was arguing the case that, if we get people out in the countryside, into nature more, then that will help, hopefully prevent cognitive decline and help, the brain health better. And unfortunately, it was academia, and as perhaps a few listening to this will realise, if they work in academia, he got blocked. There were lots of doors that closed on him, and they weren't interested. So he was getting frustrated, and he was looking to train as a health coach, which he did for a year with College of Natural Medicine, where I trained. And he was looking for a naturopath in this area. And we live within about 20 minutes of each other. So he was sat there. Again, this is the universe for you, isn't it? He was sat there next to me. We introduced each other to each other as we went around the circle, as you do. And he just looked at me and he said, "You're not Janet Wrathall, are you? I was going to get in touch with you. I was looking at your website last week." And we've been like this ever since. And as a group then, we said, right, and it was Lisa's idea as well, Lisa Dunnington, that said, look, we're trying to get these health hubs up and running around the country, which are, groups of people getting together in village halls that can offer therapies and so on. And then now, it's been amazing what they've done, all the team. They've got hubs all over the world now. And I said, well, Lisa, I've always had an idea in my head about having a large hub, and I'd had a small clinic in Garstang, 2 clinics in Garstang. And then I said, but I don't mean a small clinic, I mean a big clinic, with us all integrated and working together as a team. So her eyes lit up and said, well, that's what she'd been thinking. So I thought, right, how are we going to do this? So it's taken 2 years, but I've been involved with trying to drag. No, I haven't dragged them. They've really volunteered. Therapists, fellow practitioners like myself to be the assessment team, 4 of us, with people coming in who will be upfront assessors. And then we'll have the therapists that will carry out the treatments with these new technologies, or they'll use these analytical systems to do, further assessment, and then we'll look at the whole picture altogether. And as a team, we will be able to assess in much more detail. And at a certain point, Lisa then introduced me to another amazing woman called Lisa Steele, a fellow ND, naturopath, doctor down in Winchester, who has had a clinic down there. Her and her husband have developed a huge team, and they have developed over 25 years, is it? And this is fairly unique, I think, in the UK. They've set this system up where I think they've got about 20 odd staff now. And so chronic disease comes in, they assess, and they do, like I just said, the therapists and work together as a huge team. They've also got a dentist on board, and lots of other different aspects. And so I've worked with, again, dental work. I've worked with an amazing doctor, Dr. John Roberts, who his ears will be burning. He's in India at the minute, It's all right for some. 6 weeks. And he's a very good friend of mine now. And so he will be our dental
Amazing.
guy.
That's incredible.
He always has been for the last 20 years. But it's funny again, Ian, isn't it, how the universe delivers. He's moved practice, and he's now, instead of going to be an hour and a half away, he's going to be about 20 minutes away.
Fantastic.
From where we've positioned the new clinic.
Amazing. So giving thought to that, so how is this all going to be made up in terms of people actually in the clinic and sort of distributed around the various therapies? And
Well, I've just drawn up a plan actually, because we've obviously got, they're not going to be all full-time, but we'll have 4 frontline practitioners, like I say, like myself, as the assessment system. We've got 6 therapists, but they won't be operating all on the same day, so we'll probably have 2 or 3, maybe 2 perhaps on the same day. We'll have 2 receptionists, which we've already got. We've also got an amazing guy who's just been introduced to our core management team, Glyn Hughes, who is an EMF assessment specialist. And I mean, they're all fabulous. I'm so lucky, they're so wonderful, all the staff. But he, would you believe, he's assessed, I think I've got this right, he was phoned up by he's not a king of Saudi Arabia, is he? Is he a sheikh or a prince? So he was phoned up, can you come out to put some EMF protection devices on my palace? So he's been all around the world, this guy. And so he's already been out to assess the area, because it's only at a plan stage at the minute within the building. I've done a bit of geopathic stress assessment with my dowsing rods. So we're both there going around, assessing. So he's another one of the members of staff. We've also got a doula. If anybody doesn't know what a doula is, it's a lady who works with pregnant women, pre and then birthing and then postnatal. And she's just thinking she might start a training in something called placenta encapsulation, which is taking the placenta, drying the placenta out, and then making capsules, so encapsulating. Obviously, it's all done very stringently, encapsulating that, and then the mother. It's ancient traditional stuff, this, but obviously with a scientific bent on it. They will take the capsules, and that will nourish the baby and the mother.
That's absolutely amazing, isn't it?
So,
wow.
It is, isn't it?
Okay, well, this whole thing of your new centre is giving me amazingly severe tingles all over my body. I think it's going to be an amazing thing. It really feels great, and I think it's going to be amazing for you. And
yeah, so have I. And I sort of, sadly, I couldn't have children, but I didn't really fancy that angle myself. But
This build feels like it's going to be amazing for you. This whole building, rather, and everything that's going on with it. The centre, I've got tingles all over the body. I think it's going to be something that is really very successful for you, and a great thing. So, should we have a look at?
Oh, that's a good sign.
Oh yeah, I think it definitely is.
It's not me though, Ian. I do feel it really is everything. If you want something really positive for the community, because it's going to be a community thing, and we're wanting to cover anybody who eventually that can't afford to come. We want to be able to help them to come.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's have a look at the building now, shall we, and see how it's all going to shape up for you. Okay. So was this
Yes.
a building that was existing, or is this a brand new build?
Well, actually, yeah, it's amazing how this this happened. Originally, the guy that we're renting the place off, he owns it's 600 acres of land, and it's this beautiful old Georgian house, this hall called Wyreside Hall, which is about 20 minutes from where I live, thankfully. And so 600 beautiful acres. And originally we were going to go behind the hall. He's already got 5 B&Bs, buildings for bed and breakfast, because he's using the big central hall for wedding venue. And so when, as a team, 3 or 4 of us as the main core team, went up to visit Steve, he said, look, I think I might have some other ideas for you on the table. Can I show you them, see what you think? So he showed us these plans, and he took us, it's about a mile from the main site. He showed us 2 areas. One wasn't quite right. But when we got to this, and this is, it is physically there, surrounded by beautiful countryside, up a nice long lane. And we're all in the back of his vehicle, and we're moving up this lane, and we could see it in the distance. And we all just looked at each other and said, that's it. That's the place. And it is an old farmstead. So it does need converting. So this is the side profile, and we're taking. You'll see in a minute with the other elevations that we're taking the upper quadrant, and but we all thought perfect.
It looks amazing. So let me go on to the next slide. So this is the northwest elevation. It looks a very large premises.
It is. Obviously, this is longitudinal, so you're just seeing that end elevation.
Yeah.
And there we've got, that's excellent. So that's the back of the building. And then if we flip onto, there we go, that's the front of the building. So this is obviously what we're planning. So if we divide this up, the lighter coloured stone to the left side of the big building, big part of the building, Steve, the owner, is going to convert those into more accommodation units and a little lounge area and a little kitchen. So all that, accommodation. And then the middle bit where you've got that brown door in the central section and the grey above it, that's going to be windows, clear windows that you can see through with the door there, that brown door. That's the entrance, so that will go in. To the right of that, at the bottom layer, they are stables, would you believe, with horses in.
Right.
And so we thought we might do some, later on, horse therapy.
Yeah.
They've got more horses sort of about 10 metres away in another building as well. Now, above that, the stables, the bit, which is our bit, it is a vast, I can't remember how many square feet now, but it's a vast upper room that's only got 1 division in at the minute. That's that top bit that you can see there with 4 windows in. So that, that really is where we're going to have the whole of the clinic.
Well, it's incredible. It looks amazingly huge, but I mean, and you're going to occupy the entire space, and it will all be your team's space. Yes.
So on the plan, I don't know if you are able to flip.
That's another view, which is looks very pretty there, doesn't it?
Yes, it should be it's a really pleasant building. Yeah.
Well, it's part of the therapy already, isn't it? If you're arriving somewhere that just looks pretty and beautiful, you feel better already, I think.
That's what we thought, actually. And obviously, as of yet, there's no 5G masts around, but I think the owner, he's an electrical engineer and he's done work around the world. So I think he's, realises that a 5G tower probably won't be very, very good, to have the place.
Okay, so there's your floor plans. It's not so easy to see on here, and I can't blow that up, unfortunately, right now, but it does give an idea of so that's a ground and first floor. And having experience myself of doing some projects in the past, of building projects and design, I can see that there's a considerable amount of space there and it's well used.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just put that orange line is really our periphery of the whole section. So that's the upstairs. Downstairs, Steve, I think, is going to try and convert that to a cafe or other things down there. But we'll have, obviously, you're going to have it soundproofed all around, really. But those sections upstairs, so we should have, it's got to be divided up a little bit more again, but on that south side, you can see there we've got 3 rooms of a similar size, and then there's a larger room to the right-hand side there in the corner. They're all going to be consultation stroke therapy rooms, so they'll be dual purpose, and then we'll obviously be, using them every day, so that we can get the use out of them. And the large room there will have us as a little either presentation room or a little workshop room, as well as being consultation led. And then the north side, that was the north end, not good on direction, Janet. The south end, need my amygdala clearing out, I think. At the south end, that's it, you can see where we've got a cross there. That will be divided into 3, again for 3 consultation stroke therapy rooms. To the side of that, the right-hand side of that, that's where our dispensary will be.
Okay.
We're hopefully going to have it like an old-fashioned dispensary, from sort of early last century. Nice, wooden frontage and wooden shelves, all the herbs in and everything. And so you can see, you envisage it though.
Yeah.
And, in front of it is it's very exciting, and in front of that we're going to have a little sitting area where people can wait for the prescriptions and they can have a nice herbal tea or whatever. And then we've got offices at the other side where we're 6 or 7 office spaces within that section. And then there'll be a big central region, hopefully open, so we can use that for workshops and mini lectures. Because at the big house, there is room for conferences. There is a specific room that's already set up for conferences, would you believe?
Okay, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So everything you need is there, isn't it? There's nothing to find. It's just perfect for you.
It is quite amazing. It really is, that it's all just dropping into place.
Well, lovely. Well, we'll put full details in our description, and so people can find you, and if you can keep us updated as to when the grand opening is, and
yes, absolutely.
We'll discuss it again then. Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. Congratulations, that's all I can say. Just amazing. So just to wrap up, I mean, we've been going for quite a while now, so I know you've got to get off, so I'm going to let you find your escape route away from the podcast. So you've been associated with UKMFA for quite some time too. What led you into that, and what did you think about the last sort of 2 or 3 years of insanity that's hit this planet?
Good question. How long have we got? Yeah, I'll be brief then. I think it really was that I just looked at, the original premise behind UKMFA, and I thought, and I thought, I wonder if I'm only a little me, a naturopath, trying to do work on my own. I'm going to be any use, and then I got introduced to lovely lady called Gillian Crowther, who's fellow ND there, and absolutely brilliant, like everybody in the UK Freedom, and she said, do you want to do a little bit of work with me on putting together a little leaflet? And I mean, I did a tiny amount of work in, and from what everybody else has done, crikey, drop in the ocean what I've done, but I just thought how lovely and wonderful ethos, and you know, it's just brilliant. So I thought I had to get on board, and I do speak my mind. I have been a bit, with things that have happened to me, I think, over the years, you can sometimes get a little bit crushed, can't you? And
Sure.
you lose your self-esteem, and it happens to all of us, doesn't it? But you know, I want to say about Liz Evans as well. I haven't mentioned her so far because I just want to salute Liz, you know, hugely for what she's done forming the UKMFA and all that she was saying with the rest of the team. I thought, yeah, you know, we want to speak up. We want to, and it was scary, wasn't it, for all of us when you spoke up. A lot of us, you know, I was shaking when I gone into a shop and stood up. I'm not wearing the mask. I'm not doing this. And you were attacked a lot. So it was so nice to find fellow colleagues wide awake, you know, about all of this.
Yes, yeah.
That was it, really. I thought, you know,
the like-mindedness is so important, and you know, I think I describe it, although I think I picked it up from someone else, to be honest. But it was, you know, you find your tribe, and,
yes, exactly.
you know, and that's where you feel comfortable, and you know what's going on, and you're able to speak the truth and openly, and not feel like you're being hounded and lambasted for saying something that is supposedly, you know, outrageous, and you know, all you're just saying is what it is. This is how it is. But but when you say it's scary, I mean, I think what we're facing is still scary.
Yeah.
Actually, and it's now's the time more than ever that we all need to pull together, I think, because it's, and especially in May, when the international health regulations and the pandemic treaty, as they call it, is discussed at the World Health Assembly. I think we're facing difficult times after that, because
exactly. I think this is it. We're hopefully going to be setting up by the end of spring or early summer, but we know we've got to have everything in place, haven't we? Strategically, we've got to be backed up. We've got to have everything ticked. They're going to be after us.
Yes.
And we've just got to say, right, okay. Well, we've had a training, haven't we, the last few years? So
yeah. Well, anyway, thanks ever so much for your time. I really appreciate it. We will talk again, I'm sure, and we'd love to have an update when the opening's going to take place. And and I'm so grateful for you coming on, and we'll speak very, very soon. And say all the details of your centre will be in our details on the video when it's uploaded.
Okay, that's wonderful. And honestly, it's fabulous. And thanks so much for helping spread the word about it.
No problem at all. No, it's very exciting, and and wish you well. I know you're going to have every success, so I don't need to wish you it.
Oh, thank you anyway, and onwards and upwards. Yeah.
Okay, thanks ever so much.